So we'll just go ahead and get started. I'm Greg Lindberg, the IT specialist for the director's office, and have Lily here, our our database and content management specialist, and she's gonna drive the ship a lot today. With I know that this session is called sharing your video, and we probably should have elaborated more that we're going to be talking about uploading to YouTube, which technically is sharing your video, but we're going to focus a lot on YouTube. So if you're familiar with uploading a YouTube video, some of this might be familiar to you and you may already know it, but maybe there might be some other things that you didn't know. And but we also wanted to keep things still very basic for people that have never done it. And again, this will all be added by the end of today or tomorrow. We'll have this added to the hub in our video production page, and I'll show to you where that is as well. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. So if you go to our hub, and since I'm sharing my screen, I want to make sure I'm still able to admit people, which is a nice little Zoom thing to know that I'm not. Okay, so let me move my copy. If you go to the hub and you go to technology, and then you go down to video production, you could just bookmark this page too. This is where we're keeping all the webinars. So we have a tab on Camtasia and YouTube, and then we have the first two webinars that we've done so far here, and we'll post this one in the next day or two. So let me go ahead and just put this link in the chat as well, in case you don't have it. Let's see. Sure, I open the chat here. That is one thing that I always find interesting when you share your screen and you have to go and get the chat and the participant list out. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to mention at the top too was that it's not really video production related, but it's ADA related, is that AdCom is going to be putting on these webinars, these training events on ADA, being ADA compliant with creating Word and PDF documents, and then also creating PowerPoint documents. So I will share this not just with this group, I'll share it with all of our staff and extension, but these are just free on October 5th at 1 p.m. and October 6th at 1 p.m. So I'll share these two links in the chat here too, but I just wanted to share this with the group as I thought some of you may be interested in attending these. I think Lily and I will both go to those as well. But now you got a good number of links there in the chat. So let me make sure there's nobody else to admit here. Okay, so today we wanted to, before we get started with YouTube, I just wanted to quickly go over what we've covered so far in the last two sessions, just a quick recap. We talked about opening filming your first video and some steps. We had Jessica Hollinger, our communication specialist in the director's office, talk about how you can storyboard and create your first story. So some of those types of tips for filming your first video using your phone, using a camera, and then getting it into a file to then put into the video production software that you're using. And the one we're really focusing on these sessions is Camtasia. And in our next session, I believe we should have time that we can look at some other things too that you might be using. So this session next week will focus on if you're using iMovie and you need to convert, what are some tools that you need to convert it to an MP4, or kind of moving files around from different video production tools. If you're using Windows Movie Maker, we can talk about some of those other things that are out there too. But we're primarily talking about Camtasia because it is the free video production software that you can use from Purdue. So that's another thing that I have gotten a few questions from about where to download Camtasia. And we did mention, so if you just type in Camtasia Purdue, it should come up. Let's see. There's getting started with Camtasia. So yeah, if you type in Purdue Camtasia, there's a couple places you can download it if you don't have it still. I mentioned the Software Center. You should be able to just search in your programs and find that, and you should be able to download it from there. But if you have issues not finding it there, downloading it from there, there's also on this Purdue page, and you can click Camtasia Software Download, and it takes you to the Community Hub. And if you're not familiar with that, that has a bunch of different software and other things that you can use that's free for personal computers and also for university-owned computers. So if you wanted to download Camtasia on your own personal computer, that's a free option here to do that. And you wanted to download it to your work computer, you don't have it yet, you can do it from here. So you can select Windows 10 if that's what you're using, or Mac. And then you can just add it to your cart, and then it will let you just download it. It looks like you're buying something, but it's $0. You'll just be able to check out, and then it'll give you the download and everything. So that's another way you can go and download Camtasia. And then once you have it on your computer, again, if you have any issues getting it installed or it's not coming up the way you need it to, please contact ITAP, or you can let us know and we can help you out with that, getting you in touch with somebody that can help you. And then last session, we went into what everything over here means, and basically once you have media imported into this media bin, how you can really manipulate it down here in this timeline area. So how you can just make simple splits you can use the Control T on a Mac, and I believe it's just the S key on your keyboard to just do a split like this. And then, if you're doing something like that, you can take out a whole section. And you can use the scissors tool to even make a cut to that section too. So those were some main small editing things that we talked about. And then we also went through adding annotations, transitions. We mentioned the ones that you're going to use more than anything else is fade in between different types of shots. Like if you're going from an application to a person, a fade is going to be a good transition to use at the beginning and an end of a video. A fade through black is probably going to be very helpful. So those two transitions are ones that you're going to use more than others. And then we also talked about animations, audio effects, and visual effects, and really using these judiciously and not going overboard. A little bit can go a long way as far as these different types of animations and things that you can use. But we want to encourage you to get into Camtasia, play around with these different types of features, and feel comfortable with them just by playing around with them. You can always start over, you can always undo what you've done and go back, and you can always save a video and have a crazy video you just want to play around with. You can do anything, but we want to get you to get in here and play around. So other than that, today what we're going to talk about is sharing it to YouTube, and then also sharing it elsewhere. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let Lily go ahead and share hers. Oh, I think you're muted still, Lily.
Well, that's embarrassing. I said, hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. So I'll get started and share my screen, and then hopefully we can show you guys how to upload to YouTube. So like Greg was saying, in the last couple webinars, we discussed how you can add your video to Camtasia and then do edits with it. So if this is your video that you have all completed, my video is, I'm just going to use the webinar that we did on the 9th. So if this is my video and I'm completely ready to upload this to YouTube, there's a few different ways that you can go about sharing it to YouTube. The way that I recommend for best practice is I go ahead and first of all, I click save or Control S. Just to, kind of double check that nothing's going to happen. You're not going to lose connection or your computer's not going to die, anything like that. Because if I went ahead and lost that, I would be starting all over. So then I head over to the right-hand side of my screen and I select this green share button. And then first I go ahead and I select share to a local file. That's just going to go ahead and make sure that it's in my computer and ready to go. So I have already actually shared this video, but save this video, but if I were saving it for the first time, I'm going to make sure that I have the MP4 option selected, and then I'm going to go ahead and select next. And then I kind of click through this, but here's where you can kind of make sure that it is set to all of the SKUs that you want, all of your options are correct. Generally, what it has selected for you will work perfect. And then go ahead, select next, and then you're going to want to name it right over here. So I already have mine named. I like to name mine by the date that I created it, that it was finished, or the date that, in this case, it was the date that our webinar was live for all of you, and then the title, and kind of go through that way. That way it's easier for me to find on my computer. And then I select finish. So I already did this, so I'll just select no, because it's already saved on my computer. But that's how I do that as an example. So then in order to upload it to YouTube, I go over and head over to YouTube. But I do want to mention really quick that you can also go ahead and save it and then as a local file, and then add it to box.com. And if you did see, box.com is, what would you say? It is a way to store your files or share your files with your colleagues, and it is all cloud-based. So it doesn't take up room on your own device, and it's also a really great backup. Purdue does have a contract with Box, so it also can, it's very safe. You're not gonna, have people stealing your content or your work, and it's another great way to share your files with other people who might be collaborating on that with you. But then I'm gonna go over and I'm gonna head over to YouTube, and then to upload the file or the video that I have that I've got created for this, I go ahead and I select this, kind of looks like a camera with a plus sign over at the upper right hand of the screen. And then I click, sorry, I've got something in the way. I click upload video. Wait for that to load. Select my file. And then I just go right through and I go to where I have it saved. So for me, I have it saved underneath one of my Camtasias over here. And here it is right over here. And then I make sure that I'm selecting the MP4 video file format. That is what YouTube likes to work with. So make sure that you select your MP4 video, select open, give it a second to load. And then over here is where you're going to want to title exactly what it is. So your title might not be what you saved it in your computer. So for me, I'm just going to use video webinar recording. I'm just going to pop this in for the sake of our recording today. And then the description, you can always use the @ symbol and then mention a channel that you kind of want to promote or hopefully gear more people and viewers to. So I'm going to mention Purdue Extension. If your county does have their own YouTube channel, it might be very beneficial to mention that other channel right over here, and then just kind of just put in a sentence or two about what the video is about. You can put people's names if they're in the video, and kind of promote them that way as well. And then over here, so YouTube will generate 3 different options for you for thumbnails. You can see that right now mine are loading because this is a longer video. It's probably about an hour-long video. So it is taking a little bit longer for it to create 3, but what I would do is I would go ahead and upload my own thumbnail, because sometimes the thumbnails that it does provide for you do not necessarily give a really good indication of what your video is about. So I would want to go and upload my own thumbnail. And to do that, I would head back over to my video. This is exactly what I did when I uploaded this webinar to YouTube. And I'm going to just go ahead and zoom in on my track so that I can see exactly where I want to take my screenshot. So I'm going to want to take my screenshot right where everything looks crisp and clear. And then I'm going to go ahead and use my Snagit tool that Purdue also has a contract with. So your computer should have the Snagit tool downloaded on it. I'm going to go ahead and select Capture. And then here's where I can just go ahead and make my own little thumbnail. And that's the one I'm going to use. So I'm going to select the capture image, and then I can share this to my own library on my own computer by just selecting share and then file and naming it the name that I want to name it. So over here you can see that I already named it September 9th, 2020 Zoom recording. Okay, so that's how I created my thumbnail, and then I went right back over to YouTube and I popped in the picture that I saved it as. So that's going to be the image that everybody sees when they're looking for your video. It's going to be the first thing that everybody reads. So I would choose something that kind of directly correlates with what your video is about. Having it on a still frame of, when somebody's talking and whatnot probably is not the greatest idea, because it's not going to give people a great indication of the video, and also nobody really wants to be on the cover with their mouth open. So then you're going to want to add it to a playlist. So a playlist is going to be able to make it easier for you later on to go ahead and find your video once it's populated into YouTube. Believe it or not, it's kind of hard to find your video sometimes after you've actually uploaded it and it's been a few weeks. So doing this can kind of help you navigate later on when you're trying to find your video, and it also is going to help people kind of correlate your video with other videos that you might have created, or another topic that it might relate to. So as you can see here, there's already a ton of playlists that have been created by anybody that has access to the Purdue Extension YouTube channel. So for me specifically, I'm going to put this under Purdue Extension Tech Training. But if I wanted to, I could go ahead and create a new playlist right over here. And this is where I could add my playlist, make the title, and then make sure that it's either public, private, or unlisted. So I would make it public just so that other people that I want to view my video can also see that it does correlate to a playlist. And then maybe I have other videos that are related to that playlist. Or private is really what I would use if I almost wanted it just for me. And then unlisted is always the best practice to use if you aren't ready for it to go public yet, or maybe you just have a few other colleagues that you want to have see it, and then you can share the link and they'll be able to see it as well. But I'm just going to go ahead and just use this one playlist. You can also select multiple playlists at once. And then audience, so this is asking if the video that you have, if it's made for kids. So I always say that if it's not specifically intended for kids, I just say no. So it's not, this webinar wasn't really meant for children. Not that it's necessarily bad if they were to see it or anything like that, but being that it was more made for adults and educators and colleagues, I'm going to go ahead and say no. And another thing is to make sure that if it is made for kids and you do have any kids featured in the video, just make sure that you do have consent. So then this is the paid promotion. So it wants to know if your video has any paid promotion or sponsorship or endorsement. So most of the time, our videos do not. I personally don't know why you would select that. So for the sake of working for Purdue and whatnot, we don't select that. Tags. So a tag is a great way to also drive more viewers to your video. So for me, I'm going to make my first tag and just write technology. And then in order to kind of make that its own separate tag, you press comma, and then it makes it a different tag. And so you can create as many tags as you want, as long as you keep it under 500 characters. And if you decide that you don't want the tag, you can just go ahead and select that X button to remove it. That's something, these are things too, I just want to mention that if you don't know if you should add a tag or if you're kind of running out of time, you can go ahead and populate that later on. So this is, this is an area where you can go ahead and upload subtitles if you have gone ahead and used a different application to make subtitles, or you can kind of, YouTube does create subtitles for you. So you can kind of just leave that up to you if you've used something else or if you're going to go ahead and use YouTube. Okay, and then here's where you can kind of select the recording date if you want to, the location. It's not necessary. You don't need to go ahead and do this, but if you want, you can go ahead and fill all of that in. And then other than that, the way that it has it's selected for you is the way that you should leave it. Leave it as its default. I don't touch any of that. I let YouTube do that work. Then I go ahead and I select next. Monetization. I can't pronounce this, but monetization. So it's a great way to make. It's a good way to make money, but Purdue does not necessarily accept this. So what this is companies create ads and then they'll go at the beginning of your video. I'm sure you've watched a YouTube video where you'll kind of do get a little bit of an advertisement, and essentially if you watch the entire advertisement, the owner of the original video that you were trying to watch kind of makes money off of that. But we select off. And the reason for that being is, once again, we are a nonprofit and Purdue doesn't want for a video that we don't necessarily want to be affiliated with kind of advertising in front of one of our videos. And then go ahead, select next, and then it will take you right on to video elements. And so video elements, this is where you can add a screen at the end. So this might want to be where you put your statement of the equal opportunity employer, or maybe something about Purdue, or you can also add cards. And so by adding a card, those will allow you to point viewers to other videos, subscriptions, playlists, and other channels that you have created. So you can, I believe you can add up to 4 cards. If you don't know if you want to go ahead and do that, you don't need to select anything. And you can just kind of move on from there. Then you can go ahead and select next. And this is going to be where it shows you what your thumbnail will look like. It'll give you that link that you can head to. It's already your live link. And this is where you're going to want to pick if you want to make it private, unlisted, or public. So for best practice, we always suggest making it unlisted. First, going through, watching your video. If everything looks great, then you can go move on and make it public if you so choose to. Otherwise, making it public right away means that everybody has access to it right away. But by doing this, you can go back, you can review it, make your edits before anybody sees it. And you can also share it with anybody that you kind of want to have a say in it. Or you can schedule it, and by doing this, it's going to be 100% private before you publish. So if I went ahead and scheduled it for tomorrow at noon, only I will be able to see it until tomorrow at noon, and then it's going to be public. Okay, so then it just wants to make sure that you've thought of all of these things, and then you're going to go ahead and select. Let just going to make mine private right now. And then you're just going to go ahead and select save. So please note that you do need to wait for it to be uploaded to standard definition before you can kind of move on from there. And other than that, you will see it kind of populate right over here. So these are all of the videos that are on the Purdue Extension channel. And then I just go ahead and I always make sure that I check all of these things. So right now nobody can see it because it is not fully uploaded to the standard definition. I didn't choose monetization. You can't necessarily see that at the moment. I don't have restrictions on it. And then the date will go over here, and then you can kind of scroll over it, and later on, once this is public and other people have seen it, you can see the views, the comments, the likes, and things like that. I can also go over here and go back in and make other edits if I need to, or choose options if I want to go ahead and view it, delete it, change the title. If I decide that I want to add monetization to it, I can, and things like that. Other than that, I would select the video and, oops, sorry. I'm going to make sure that I edit it just to show you. Okay, why isn't this? Okay, so when editing, I can head over to my subtitles section if I do want to go ahead and add subtitles. So like I mentioned earlier, YouTube does put in subtitles for your video already, but I would want to view my video since it hasn't quite uploaded. I'll have to go back. I'd want to view my video by clicking on the link.
Yeah, that's okay. I wanted to mention something while we're waiting for it.
Okay, yeah.
Just take a minute. So yeah, we had a question from Courtney Stewart that she was being charged. She wasn't sure that captioning is free on YouTube. To my understanding, it's automatically generated. So I sent an email to Joan Crow just to get clarification on that. And when I hear back from her, I'll make sure I share that with the group, if not during this session later on. But that might be a case of having someone paid to transcribe it. I have seen things that September 28th that is going away, where there used to be a feature where users could actually help suggest where words or phrases should be updated for the captioning. But it should, yeah, if we want to just look at a video that already exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go into edit video, or sorry, you could go back and just show them what the captioning looks like real quick too. I didn't mean to have you go there yet, but thanks. That's okay. So yeah, that's where it does it automatically. You don't do anything, you upload your video. You'll see when there is some talking in the video, like right there. It captures it pretty well. I think Joan mentioned in our last session that YouTube has improved this quite a bit. I think since when Google became a part of YouTube, I've seen quite a huge improvement with the captioning and the subtitles here. Same thing. So we recommend as Lily was saying, when you're viewing your video, to make sure there's nothing else that went wrong between the conversion of, go filming your video, putting it in Camtasia, exporting it to an MP4, putting it into YouTube, making sure that it looks the way that you want. No sound is off. Nothing else looks weird with your transitions or anything. You can also click this captioning and kind of review that too. Of course, if you have a really long video, that can be somewhat cumbersome, but it depends on how much due diligence you want to do. I wouldn't imagine if you have a 2-hour, seminar that you uploaded or something, that you're going to want to watch that all and make sure every word is captured. It gets it as close as you can imagine that they do for some TV shows, and then it might be off like a word or two. It does it fairly close that it's not going to lose the message, but it doesn't hurt to kind of review, especially for you know, 5-minute video to kind of look over and make sure that it is saying what you want. But we, if you want to go to the edit now, we could
Okay.
just show real quick how they can go to that. If we go back to that captioning or subtitles section.
Oh, you mean on this?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So this is where Lily just was that if you click on that little ellipsis next to published, or yeah, add language, sorry. If you click add language there, oh, no. Yeah, click, go back to the little ellipsis next to published, I think it was.
Oh, sorry. I have to.
And that you can see that option there too, that community contributions are turned off for the video. I think is the default. Is that all for it
Yeah.
here? I think I might have a video up real quick that I could just,
Do you want me to stop sharing?
yeah, I think, see if this one has it. Sorry guys. And then we'll bring it back to you for a couple more minutes. So yeah, these ones are already published and created. So I think it was, this is how you can get so lost in YouTube too. So as Lily was mentioning, if we just wanted to find video that we just had, let me, oops, not sharing the right screen now. I don't think. Sorry about that. Maybe I was sharing the right screen. Okay. So yeah, if you're going to your video, I think Lily was mentioning you can search for it, or you can go into if you're in the extensions YouTube or your own YouTube, you can always go into this YouTube studio as well. And that's where you'll find all your videos and playlists and things like that. So I think, yeah, this is the one we just added. So it looks like it is up there now. And then this is where, now that since it hasn't been added, those ones we were looking at had already added subtitles, so I would have had to delete it. And I
Hey,
didn't.
Greg.
Yep.
We're not seeing the right screen.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for letting me know. That's weird. Thanks for not letting me go on too long with showing the wrong screen. Okay. Can everybody see that now?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So yeah, I went into subtitles again, and what I mentioned was that before I would have had to delete subtitle and then add it again. I didn't want to do that to an existing video, but now that that video Lily just put on here has been completely finished uploading, you can click add here, and this is where if you have a file that a transcriber already did for you, they have it formatted, you could just upload that transcript file here. You can transcribe and auto sync yourself. So this is where you can do that editing. So
could be a stay-at-home
you can
mother.
see
It could be someone who's in school.
this is where you would listen to a little bit.
Technique with it's basically in 6
So I would listen to what she's saying, and then I would type it right here, and then you have this selected, and then you can set timings. So if I test, so
it could be a
then it kind of lets me set exactly where the timings are. It's been a while since I've done a little bit of these, but yeah, this is where you would go to play around with this. We might go into this a little and more in the last session, but this is where you can go to edit subtitles. This is just another option here with adding where they come in each section, so you can see you can upload a file again. This has that timing down there that I was just trying to find, but this is where
imagine what your audience is thinking when they see
so it doesn't give you the ones that auto generates and lets you edit them there. You would kind of have to type in those options, what they're saying there, and that can be a lot of work for obviously a almost hour-long video, but there are people that go through and transcribe themselves, and it can be quite a job, but you do need to have some form of them on there. So if it's not auto-generating right and you want to do it yourself or it needs to be done, this is another way you can do it within YouTube. And I think, like I mentioned, I think maybe what was charged for with AdCom for Courtney is that they do have transcribing services, and there's a lot of other people out there that can do that for us. So I think, let me stop sharing here and I'll let Lily share again. So I think that's always an option too, if you have something that you need to be transcribed and have the subtitles for, that you can pay people for that service to do that. So yeah, do we want to move on to, again, we might touch on subtitles in our last session a little more, and captioning. So if we didn't cover that enough, we might look at that a little more in our last session. So, and I'll get that answer back hopefully from Jones, who is soon as well, just to clarify that for everybody.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen again.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I think it was very beneficial, especially because my subtitles in my video wasn't quite uploaded yet, so it was perfect timing. So if you head over to the left-hand side of the screen, and back to the video that I had uploaded of our webinar on the 9th, there's an option to kind of make last-minute edits in your video. So if there's a few things that you want to trim out or add, you can go ahead and do that right in YouTube. So you can cut things out in here. You can't do everything that you can do in Camtasia, but if there's a few things that you kind of realize last minute, you know, hey, I wish I would have trimmed this out at the very end, you can go ahead and just do that right over here in this editor tab on the left-hand side. Once you've kind of clicked on that link that it's provided you with to go to your YouTube. And then like Greg said, right over here is where you can get to that subtitle screen like he had just mentioned. And then where's my analytics? So if you go right above your editor, you can see your analytics. So this is especially helpful if your video is already published. So this one specifically is not necessarily published because this is just my draft of the one that I'm not actually going to be publishing today. But you could go ahead and see how many views it's gotten, the watch time, anybody who subscribed to it, and then you can even go farther in depth and it'll give you different ranges and kind of perspectives on how to go ahead and view that. So it'll show you, you know, maybe, you know, imagine that this is much greater than what it is, and there's kind of more of a graph going on. But that is one way to kind of track your engagement and your audience as well, just through YouTube analytics. So I guess just to recap on some of the things that I've touched on, I will say that it is very beneficial to save in more than one place. So saving to box.com as well as your local file and then publishing it to YouTube. I know Camtasia does have this option to kind of go straight to YouTube. But in doing so, just keep in mind that you might end up losing some things, or later on, if you go ahead and decide that you kind of want that on your local file, it can be more of a challenge to just go ahead and have it already stored on your computer. Saving it into a Google Drive is always a good option too. So I guess for best practice, I would always recommend saving it locally and then going from your local file to YouTube, or save it to box.com or Google Drive and then go to YouTube. For me, that's what I do. I've never had any issues with it. And sometimes, you know, internet can lag or your computer can die or anything can happen. And it's always a good peace of mind knowing that I have that other file saved right there and I don't have to go through and, you know, remake my entire video or anything like that. And then just another side note, make sure that you're always saving your as an MP4 file format. That's just the best way to go about anything, especially when you are uploading to YouTube. YouTube loves MP4, and trying to share an MP4 file with another colleague or to box.com or anything like that makes it so much more easier to be visible and whatnot by anybody that you're trying to share it with, as well as later on in the future if you're trying to download it again. Just makes things a lot more compatible. And with that, I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen and turn it on over to Greg.
Thanks, Lily. That was very helpful. So I did get a reply from Joan real quick that captioning, the automatic captioning that we went over, that is free. So she said that Cielo24, Cielo24, I could share their site with you, but that's just a website that I think AdCom lets people know that they can use to do the transcribing and captioning for your videos. And she says that's $1.60 per minute. So that's pretty good. If you have like a handful of 20-minute videos, that obviously could add up quite a bit, but it probably will be more accurate than what that automatic captioning is. So I can share that link and we'll resource that too. But Courtney, you might want to, yeah, well, thank you, Lily. You might want to check and make sure what those charges were, if that's what it was, potentially, I'm thinking. So I'll go ahead and share my screen again too here. Hopefully the right one this time. Okay, everyone can see the YouTube video.
Yep, this is the right screen.
Okay, good. Pull up the chat too, so I have that. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was just sharing your video. So you could always, you have the link to your video up at the top, but that's a long, ugly YouTube link. A lot of places, if you put that in like Facebook and other types of websites, it'll automatically generate it to maybe embed the video. But it's best to really go to the share option here and use this link. And it's the shortened YouTube link that you can use. That's the one that you really should go around sharing, sorry. But you can also just click Facebook here. And if you're already logged into your county Facebook page, then you can just say what you want to about the video and then just post it direct or share it directly from YouTube. You can do that. And same with Twitter, and maybe LinkedIn might be another one that you may use. But primarily you can use this link, but if you wanted to even use the Purdue Extension short link, if you don't know how to do that, you can, we do have the short link request on the hub. I believe it is in links from there. You think you'd find everything as quickly as you want to on the hub right here. So if you go to marketing and link shortener, then this is where you can request a short link for that video too, if you want to have that puext.en an extension or portion onto your link. You can always do that and request that from us. But again, that's just easy ways to embed your video. One reason why we like to use YouTube to post a lot of our videos that we've been doing is because when we're posting them on WordPress, which the hub is on, is that we have a plugin that automatically embeds them very nicely into the size that we want and everything. So YouTube works a lot better than MediaSpace, but I do want to share MediaSpace as an option real quick before we stop today. So MediaSpace, if you're not familiar or never have used it, is Purdue's YouTube alternative. So if you don't have it saved or have never been there to it before, you could just type in Purdue MediaSpace. If I can share that link on there too, it'll be the first link that pops up. So then you just log in with your Purdue credentials, and basically everything that you can pretty much do in YouTube, except maybe some of those captioning and some more advanced editing features within YouTube, you can pretty much do a lot of the same things in MediaSpace. You would just you would add new media upload, you would drop that MP4 into here. There's some other things that Lily's gonna actually write an article about using MediaSpace, and there's some things that I haven't really used that much. I haven't used like Captioning or done the live event or this video quiz. I'm not sure how well those are being utilized or work right now, but those are some other options we're going to explore and then elaborate on if we think they're worth using or sharing. But really, you would just click media upload, and then you can drag and drop your video and go through a lot of those same motions, similar to what Lily showed in YouTube. And it's really just another place to store all your videos. You can have, as you can see, you can have playlists and channels just like YouTube. And there's this webinar for 4-H that I uploaded a while ago, and I believe Jenny Clark in 4-H was asking, should we be using MediaSpace over YouTube? And I said it's really a preference. MediaSpace is more vetted through Purdue. It's Purdue product here. So security-wise, if security is a concern at all, that you want to just have a private video that you want to just share maybe with a small group or department, maybe MediaSpace might be better than risking putting it on YouTube. As YouTube's perfectly fine to use and allowable to use, but you have that second layer of protection for something if you want to use MediaSpace instead. MediaSpace can also be public, same publishing options as YouTube. So if you went to, after your video is uploaded, you can make it private, unlisted, published, so you don't have to be a Purdue employee to view a video. If it's published here, it can be out to the world and you can share it. Same ways with the links, their link is much uglier than YouTube, so shortening that down with the bit.ly or the Purdue link shortener, definitely a good idea. And they also have embedding here, is something we've used before within SharePoint and other things like that. But other than that, it's pretty self-explanatory, but I've told people, especially if it's not something you want to put on YouTube and it is a webinar or a meeting that you recorded, I think MediaSpace is a good place to host some meetings. So Zoom right now, as we move to Purdue Northwest, or for hosting Zoom for us, it's being recommended by ITAP and them that we don't really have cloud recordings, that we save those Zoom meetings to our computer, and you don't want those to pile up on your computer too much, and oftentimes you want to have them shareable for the group that was in that meeting. I would suggest putting it on MediaSpace if it's just for people that you want with that link, and it's not something you absolutely need to put on YouTube, then MediaSpace can be good for that, for just meetings, I think, especially storing some of those Zoom ones. So, other than that, I think I'll stop sharing my screen for now unless we need to come back to anything, but we have about 9 minutes left to see if there's any other questions. So yeah, Courtney said, confused. I hope let me know if you can't figure that out with those charges that you got. But yeah, I'm not sure. It shouldn't cost anybody to have those automatic captions. So you'd have to go make sure. That would have to be an option. I don't know. Does everyone have access to the Purdue YouTube page? You can. I should talk with Joan too, because we do have the credentials that we share and people can get in there and use it. So there's other counties using Purdue main extension to add their own playlists to. If you want us to add a video to a playlist, Lily and I can help you out with that. You can contact Joan about the YouTube. Our YouTube extension account is ran through AgCom. So it's actually, if you need like a code to get in or anything, it has to usually go through Joan, and that can take some time if you're getting into it for the first time. But yeah, you definitely can use the main extension YouTube, and I know some people have their own county ones too, and that's fine as well. So let's see, what other questions did we have? Email Joan directly, not sure to determine. Yeah, Courtney, feel free to email Joan on that question you have about the charge. Brian asked, how do you access the Purdue YouTube page? So yeah, just reach out to us and we can give you those credentials. Right now, I haven't been told otherwise. That's been my knowledge, that we can, if you need to get in and access it and create a playlist or have videos on there, you can do that. Again, if you need help or want us to put it on there for you, we can do that too. we don't want to get in the habit of, I don't want Lily to be having to post everybody's videos on there. So I think that is the point of the whole thing today, is that it's very easy to do, that you're not, as long as you're not touching any or deleting anybody else's videos, you're fine. And I think that's always a concern, but we can bring them back as long as nobody clicks that delete forever. We can track when things were deleted and stuff, but there's definitely some trust involved with who has and gets into YouTube, that you're not doing anything nefarious. And I guess we just trust people an extension that you would not delete somebody's video that is not yours. So that's always something to be cognizant about. So yeah, thanks for adding Joan's email there. Danica had a question. What was the software used to capture the thumbnail? That's the Snagit, right? Is that the one you were using?
Yeah, I was using Snagit. So I just went over to my search bar on the bottom left hand of the screen, typed in Snagit, and then kind of took a screen grab of the exact area that I wanted to capture. It's been a while since I first downloaded Snagit, but I believe you can go ahead and download that right from the Windows button, correct? Otherwise, I know Egg
Yeah.
can help out with that too.
Same with the Camtasia. If you typed in Purdue Snagit, it's going to bring you to the innovative learning page, and then there's a link to download the software, so you can see.
I just kind of,
If you could, this is another place. So if it's not on your computer and you don't see it in your programs, or you don't see it in the software center, you can always go to this page and you can download it from here, and it'll take you to that community hub. So the same place that I just was for Camtasia, you can just download it from here. But I use that like every day, so it's a very useful tool if you don't have it.
Lee would like to know, he says, I've been uploading to my own YouTube page. Is that okay to use?
Yep. Yeah. Well, personal YouTube page. Yeah, as long as you have, branding that is what we talked about kind of last session, that Joan mentioned, that you're not having any branding on that YouTube page that is out of sync with the university and what extensions should be. So if you're representing Purdue and Purdue Extension, you're still going to have to follow all those same guidelines if you're using your own Purdue account. I think it probably would be best to use like a county. I know there's a lot of counties that have like their own, like a Johnson County YouTube page, and that's all that it's used for. If you're using your own personal one, be careful being logged in and stuff, because it's going to show other related videos based on what you watch and stuff like that. So that, it can be tricky using your own account. I would recommend making sure it's just allocated for Purdue Extension. What else did we have? Anything else? I think we got Joan's email and Snagit. Okay. Is there any other questions before we end today? And like I said, next week we're going to kind of talk about how to store files well and share them. So if you have a file that is corrupted and you need to share it with me or Lily, how you can get that to us. If you're having internet connectivity issues and uploading bigger video files, what are some tips and tricks that you can do with that? If you need to convert an MOV file to an MP4 or something else, what are some different tools that you can download and resources for those? We're going to go over all that, and then any other final kind of questions that we want to talk about. And then we're also we'll share a survey with you for all these sessions, and we'll try and get that out to everybody that has attended. So that's pretty much what we have planned then. So if there's no other questions, thank you for joining the session, and we'll see hopefully most of you next week too.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lily.
Yep, thanks. Bye.
And